I think we can all agree that the only constant in the world of fashion is that things are constantly changing. From the current cycle of micro trends to the quote unquote good days when Levi's were made in the US, fashion, like each of us, evolves over time. And in my opinion, there are some items within fashion that are truly timeless, while others just don't make the cut. Let's take a look at some of these items and differentiate what is trendy and what is timeless. And at the conclusion of this video, I hope you have a better idea of how to build a timeless wardrobe. Now, the criteria that I have for determining whether or not something is timeless or trendy is somewhere in between arbitrage and infallible truth. And if you disagree with my opinion/facts, the comment section exists for a reason. Let's begin with tops. There are a few surefire items that are both timeless for menswear and women's wear. These items include basics such as plain white and black tees, hoodies, crew necks, and wife pleasers. In addition to that, I think collared uppers are, without a doubt, classic timeless pieces. And they include items such as camp collars, dress shirts, Oxford shirts, 3/4 zip collared shirts like the one I'm wearing right now from Kotn. And the list can go on and on when it comes to different collared shirts, as there are tons of different variations that you can choose from. An item of clothing that I think can be a bit controversial for some, but pulled off and styled correctly looks absolutely classic and timeless, are turtlenecks. Now, if you're in high school or college, I'm not recommending that you pull up to third period or your third scheduled class in a turtleneck. But I do think when it's done right, turtlenecks in particular can look really sophisticated and elegant. Some of the other items that you guys mentioned to me in the previous video that I did about trendy versus timeless were items such as graphic tees, knitted tops, and flannels. Let's discuss them. I think this is where fashion gets really interesting. In general, I think that there are versions of these items that could be considered timeless. And then there are also versions of these items that definitely are trendy. For example, graphic tees. I definitely think there's an argument to be made that some of the graphic tees that people have in their wardrobe could be considered timeless pieces. This goes the same for knitted tops. And in my opinion, items like this, and this can really be applied to a lot of items within fashion, there will always be the classic variant of something that signifies what this item is about, the kind of top of the food chain of that particular item of clothing. And then you have the sort of fast fashion, quick profit variants that ooze this feeling of corporate capitalism within the art form in the fashion industry. It's sort of like there are your Monets, your classical, most traditional, most beautiful paintings. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have your hotel art, your tacky kind of reproduction art that just doesn't serve to represent what the original stood for. So to clarify, graphic tees can be timeless, but they also can be trendy. I know it's not a very straightforward answer. It depends on what graphic tee we're talking about. Same with knitted tops. But I do think flannels is another story that you guys mentioned that I hadn't mentioned prior. For me, I don't wear a ton of flannels. In fact, I never do. But from my estimation, flannels are not trendy, not in the slightest. They seem to be a very staple piece for a lot of people who enjoy them. Now, obviously things fluctuate in popularity. Some tops that I do consider to be a bit more on the trendy side include ultra fuzzy cardigans and sweaters. Mohair as a fabric is really popular right now, so anything that has that excessive mohair in its composition I feel like is a bit more trendy right now. Don't get me wrong, they do look good still. I would just say they lean more towards trendy than they do timeless. Let's do some rapid fire items that you guys submitted on Instagram. Camo tops. I think these are trendy. I never really got into camo tops. Obviously camo is something that's very popular in something like streetwear, but I just feel like camo as a look is a trendy look. Sorry to all the camo lovers out there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let me know down in the comments. I'm sorry. Corsets. Now, corsets have been around for a long time, but in my estimation, in my opinion, I would consider them to be a more trendy look. I don't know if they're very wearable other than like a very kind of cosplay, costumey feel. And for whatever reason, they just seem less practical and they seem more kind of, spectacle. Less practical and more spectacle. That I like that. Oversized variants of basics are definitely more trendy than they are timeless. What do I mean by that? If you have an oversized hoodie or oversized crew neck or oversized jacket, anything that has a more demonstrative and just kind of and is more of a deviation from the norm is going to be a bit more trendy than timeless. And there can be a whole conversation about silhouette when it comes to trendy versus timeless. I think that the more you deviate away from silhouettes within, obviously there's a ton of different body types now, but the more you deviate from silhouettes that are just that classic looking male and female, that, you know, timeless look and aesthetic, that functional look, the more you kind of are dealing with things that are more trendy. Because if something is a deviation of something else, that means whatever is being deviated from is the originator. It is the most iconic form of that thing. Fleece jackets. Ooh, I love me a good fleece jacket, but I would say that fleece jackets, like the crazy ones, the Stussies, the Palaces, the other crazy ones, Capital, are mostly trendy. I love a good fleece, and just because something's trendy doesn't mean that you shouldn't have it in your wardrobe or that you can't enjoy it. I don't know, fleeces are like a new form of, I don't know how to classify them. I don't know what a classic fleece is, so maybe that's a flawed way to look at fleeces as trendy or timeless. Racing jackets, trendy. Easily. Yeah, yo, damn, Drew, everything trendy now, huh? I like the look of racing jackets, but when it comes to deciphering whether or not something's trendy or timeless for tops, in my opinion, I have to look at it and say, will I be wearing this in 3 years from now, in 5 years, in 10 years from now? Or will it kind of just ebb and flow with people's interests? And maybe that's not the most foolproof way to look at whether or not something's trendy or timeless, but it's kind of hard to decipher that, right? Like, a lot of things are really in this ambiguous zone, meaning that in some moments they probably could be considered timeless. There just are variations of these items that just are not timeless, not even close, and are very trendy, and you can kind of feel that. But that's my feeling, and maybe your feeling is different. Okay, last for tops, let's touch on workwear and workwear jackets. I think workwear as a genre is one of the more timeless genres within fashions, multiple fashions. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Now, when we think about workwear in the modern context, a lot of people mention Dickies and Carhartt, whether it be the Eisenhower jackets or the Detroit jackets, which in my opinion, I think are more trends than they are timeless. The workwear jackets that I think honor workwear the best are the Japanese Americana jackets, and the way that Japanese Americana honors traditional Americana, right? Like the clothing that comes from Japanese Americana just does so much more justice, in my opinion, than a lot of the reproduced made in Mexico workwear jackets that are currently being made by Carhartt and Dickies. We're talking about items such as French chore jackets, leather jackets, overcoats, tweed jackets. And in women's wear, it's a lot of times very interchangeable when it comes to these tops and jackets, but we can also include items such as blazers, sweater vests, and waistcoats. A lot of these items are timeless, but like I mentioned before, you may have a reference point where some of these items are very trendy to you because there are reproductions and there are other variants of these items that are popularized in the year 2022 that, yeah, they have a more trendy feel. But I think at the core of these items, the first variants, the first few variants, the first variants that were mastered, the Monets of this group, are definitely timeless. For the record, I do think varsity jackets are timeless. If something that your grandpa or your dad or his dad wore, and you wear it still to this day in different variations, once again, I think that for the most part, it's a timeless kind of thing. I also think denim jackets are really classic and timeless. The Levi's Type 1 is a great example. And then there are so many other variations of denim jackets. But I think a good denim jacket, no matter what it is, for the most part, is a more timeless looking piece than it is a trendy piece. Unless, of course, you do something like this and make it a bit too crazy. Therefore, it becomes a bit more trendy. Damn, there's probably so many items that I'm missing when it comes to tops. If I'm missing any, let me know down in the comments that you think are either trendy or timeless. Part 3 might be in order. Before we talk about bottoms that I think are either trendy or timeless, I want to highlight today's sponsor, Kotn. This quarter zip that I've been wearing the entire video is made by them, and I have been absolutely loving this top. Kotn focuses on conscious creation and consumption, meaning each of the pieces made by Kotn are either made out of biodegradable textiles or recycled textiles. The longevity that we can produce for the planet and the products that we create within the fashion industry is what true timelessness is all about. If you want to shop some of these items yourself, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. Use code DREW15 for 15% off at checkout. I truly appreciate your support. All right, let's get into bottoms. In fashion, nothing feels quite as good as a perfect fitting pair of pants.
You're goddamn right.
I think we can all agree that denim jeans, for the most part, are timeless. But like I mentioned before, there will of course be variants that feel and come off as more trendy. Last time I made this video, I said that wide-fitting jeans were timeless. I was enamored by wide-fitting jeans. I love wide-fitting jeans, and if you had to ask me to choose whether or not I would pick a pair of skinny jeans, a regular fitting pair of jeans, or wide-fitting jeans, I would pick the wide-fitting pair of jeans every single time. But I do think that I've had a change of heart in the consideration of whether or not wide-fitting jeans are actually timeless. I think if there's a spectrum, I think the most timeless pair of jeans are regular, straight fit, just run-of-the-mill classic jeans. And then the more you deviate away from that straight fit, the more you kind of play with this idea that, is this really timeless or is it more trendy? Does it kind of ebb and flow with current fashion opinions, or is this something that you can wear for years and years to come and no one will bat an eye? Those trendy variants include things like boot cut, skinny jeans, wide fitting, ultra wide fitting, and whatever this is. Funny enough, I used to never wear wide-fitting jeans. When I was in high school, the main meta for fashion and what was cool in fashion was to wear skinny jeans, especially with knee blowouts and thigh blowouts. It was kind of this Jerry Lorenzo influence and inspired West Coast rapper look. It's safe to say as a grown man, I don't dress like that, obviously. So when it comes to the conversation of jeans, of denim, you can go a lot of different ways. I personally love wide-fitting jeans. Maybe you love tapered jeans. Maybe you love jeans that are a bit more cropped. Maybe you like rolling and pin rolling your jeans. There's so many different variations. And I think for the most part, if you put on a pair of jeans, you have denim on, it's going to look more timeless than it is going to look more trendy, unless you do something crazy with it, which seems to be a key theme of this video right now. Now, we all have to agree that parachute pants are trendy, right? Right? Cool, but definitely trendy. And I think it's important to clarify, just because something is trendy doesn't mean it's not worth having in your closet or in your wardrobe. It just means that it probably will fall out of favor in 2 to 3 years. I know it's fall time, but for women's wear, I would say that short skirts and like sporty and rich skirts are definitely more trendy than they are timeless. And I mentioned this before, but I think that anytime you take something and you make it either really short or really long, you dramatize it, I think it falls to the wayside and becomes a little bit more trendy than timeless. Basically, if you have to add a descriptive adjective to the item of clothing, it's probably leaning more towards trendy than timeless. Now, you can't ever go wrong with a straight fitting pair of black pants or trousers. Some of my favorite variants include something like the Dickies 874, which to me is an absolute timeless pant. I feel like 874s just look absolutely stunning. They can be styled in so many different ways. Once again, kind of talking about workwear again, I love the 874. And if there are other straight fitting black trousers or pants, they're timeless. They're timeless, baby. Something that I feel like has been trendy and has kind of seen the rise in popularity and then the kind of lessening in popularity are Carhartt double knees. Now, a lot of people kind of fight with me on Carhartt and double knees in particular, but I feel like the double knee from Carhartt has had just this really spectacular moment in 2020 and 2021, and it's kind of fading away a bit in 2022. Now, the Carhartt double knees are a signifier for this movement, but I think that what the Carhartt double knees have done, and you can still feel this ripple effect of them, is that you have high-end brands and you have work in progress and you have all these different variations of double knees being made of a higher tier, of a more kind of fashion tier versus workwear tier that still has an impact on the culture right now. And I feel like it will for years to come. So I think that the Carhartt double knee is a trendy item, but I think the effect of it could leave a timeless effect on the industry moving forward. Only time will tell. Let's do rapid fire again for bottoms. Corduroy, timeless. I love me a pair of corduroy pants, absolutely timeless. Carpenter pants, also timeless. I think that if you're a skater or if you like this aesthetic, I think this aesthetic just, you can't go wrong with it. It looks so good, has that grunge element to it, has that kind of street element to it. Yeah, I love carpenter pants. Cargo skirts, trendy, without a doubt. Cargo, like mixing together two items is like, it's a trendy kind of thing. Like everything is trendy until proven wrong. And I think that with cargo skirts, you have to prove me wrong in the long haul that this is something that people are going to wear for years and years to come. I just don't see it. Leather trousers or leather pants. I think these are trendy, actually. I think leather jackets are a bit more timeless, but the pant variations, I don't know. They're a bit like they're for a certain person and you just don't see it very often, I feel. If I missed anything when it comes to bottoms, let me know. Let's talk about footwear. Now, footwear is definitely my favorite aspect when it comes to fashion. So everything that I say from here on out is scripture. There's no arguing with it. There's no, but Drew, well, this is not the way. It is the way. It is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
And there is no arguing, okay? Currently, the most trendy footwear over the last few years when it comes to both classic shoes and sneakers, I would have to say are Jordan 1s, Nike Dunks, New Balance 992s, Adidas Sambas, and Salomon XT6s. These are all kind of sneakers, and I feel like sneakers have a much more kind of palpable rise and fall than other types of footwear. And those are the ones I think have been the most trendy. Maybe the New Balance 990 V3, but I have my opinion on that later. And I think with footwear, it's a bit of a different type of category because I could say sneakers, the form of footwear considered to be sneakers, are timeless. With footwear, you have these models that really transcend culture, and as a result, they take on a life of their own beyond like a hoodie or a crew neck or a camp collar or a fleece. They really have this kind of different type of energy to them. With footwear, you gotta dig a little deeper, essentially. I think the inverse of some of the shoes that I mentioned before that I said were trendy are things such as traditional shoes. You have derbies, you have penny loafers, you have tasseled loafers, you have eight-eyed boots. All of these variants of footwear I think are classic. There are so many different distinctions and types of them from so many different brands, and they're definitely timeless. And I also think Crocs are timeless. Someone mentioned this in my previous video I made about this, and I do have to say that over the course and the lifespan of Crocs, they have lasted the test of time and they have come out even stronger than they were before. And I don't see a period in time where people won't be wearing Crocs. That's how powerful they are as a footwear model. Other timeless shoes include Converse All-Stars, Adidas Stan Smiths, Nike Air Force Ones, Onitsuka Tiger Mexico 66s, Adidas Superstars, Nike Cortezes, and the New Balance 990s. Now, I said before that I think that 990s could be considered trendy, but I think that for the classic shoes, like classic sneakers, they do have these moments where they also ebb and flow very dramatically. Jordan 1s are like that. You could say Nike Dunks are like that. You could say a lot of like just the best sneakers are like that. They ebb and flow. Like people like them and then they don't like them. And the sneaker industry really pushes new silhouettes and new hype onto different models based on how much money they can try to make on consumers. I think a lot of people, when I ask them what are some items that they consider to be trendy or timeless when it comes to footwear, a lot of people mention the Birkenstock Boston. In fact, I have a pair on right now. These are my beautiful Birkenstock Bostons. Look at them. Look at them. But in my opinion, these are timeless, without a doubt. Birkenstocks have been around for years and years and years. And just because they are being rediscovered by a new generation of buyers doesn't necessarily throw them straight away into the trendy category. Anything that's been around for a while, I think you have to give it its kudos, right? Like it hasn't been around for a while because it's a trend, right? Like there have been plenty of shoes that are here today and gone tomorrow. And you know, the quote, the real is here and it lasts, and all the other BS is here today and gone tomorrow. And that's just the way it is. And Birkenstocks are not here today and gone tomorrow. They will be here and people will be wearing them, whether it's the cool kids or whether it's the moms. Birkenstocks will be around. All right, let's do some rapid fire here when it comes to footwear. New Balance 550, trendy. Without a doubt, love the shoe, but they're trendy. Asics Gel Kayano 14. These are classic shoes. I'm having a hard time. I wrote down trendy, but I don't know. The Gel Kayano right now is trendy, so I'm gonna say trendy. Rick Owen Geo baskets. Can I even say that right? I don't even know, but those are trendy, inexpensive. Rubber boots in high fashion. Things like Bottega Veneta's puddle boots or Balenciaga's trooper boots or the Crocs, like the Crocs Balenciaga boots. Trendy. They're just trendy. They're all trendy. Reebok Club C. Now that's a timeless shoe that I forgot to mention. That's a really classic shoe. Heels, timeless. I said this before about heels. I feel like you could make a multi-video part series talking exclusively about the different heels and all the different cool variations of heels over the years. For women's wear especially, they are just something that's timeless. New Balance 2002R. Obviously, I'm a big sneaker guy. I'm mentioning a ton of sneakers, but these are trendy, even though that they are wildly comfortable, and I love the 2002R. I have a ton of pairs. They're still trendy. Jordan 1. I would say the Jordan 1 is timeless. Even though I said that the Jordan 1 is going through a trendy moment, definitely a timeless shoe. Without a doubt, a timeless shoe. All right, this video is very long. If you stuck with me up until this point, thank you so much. Let's talk about accessories. I think two types of accessories that are classic, timeless are knit beanies and jewelry. Now, when I say that, it's a bit contradictory because it's like, Drew, how are you going to say knit beanies and jewelry and you can't say sneakers? Like, it's just a bit weird. But I think that there are so many different types of knit beanies. Once again, the theory applies. The more you deviate away from what is traditionally thought of as the item, the more it becomes trendy. And that's the same for knitted headwear and knitted beanies and jewelry. Now, you can argue that the current maximalistic rendition of a lot of jewelry that's being put out today is a bit more trendy, and I would probably agree with you. But I think for the most part, jewelry is this very living thing because you have to wear it, you put it on you. Like, it's a very kind of identity clinching thing. It attaches to someone's identity very strongly. But something that I think attaches to your identity even more, and this may be a bit more controversial than I typically give my opinions for, but something that I feel like I have to say, not I have to say, but something that I feel like that would be interesting to say is that in fashion, we typically associate our identity with the clothing that we wear and buy, which in my opinion isn't the best way to go about consuming the art form, because while the clothing you wear does say something about you, it's not your identity, and you shouldn't associate too much of your worth with the things that you wear. You should associate your worth with how you treat other people. But this particular thing, it's not even a fashion item, but I've noticed over the years that there's trends in like tattoos, right? And I think tattoos are something that help build up an aesthetic when it comes to presenting your identity or showcasing who you are along with the clothing that you wear. And a lot of times tattoos have different trends and different things that are popular as well. And one of the things I've noticed a lot is this kind of like very like a specific type of tattoo that a lot of people are getting, which are the kind of like very small tattoos all around, kind of the Emma Chamberlain recent tattooification of tattoo trends. And I think tattoos, which I've never talked about tattoos. I don't have any tattoos personally, but I think tattoos from an aesthetic standpoint has spilled over into fashion, kind of like how headphones have also spilled over into the aesthetification of everything that happens within fashion. Like, I think tattoos, like the ones that are all over, have been pretty trendy recently, and I think they play a role into aesthetics within fashion. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I don't know. They're not really accessories, but they kind of are. Like jewelry, like you have to get your ears pierced, and then like you have to wear it, and it's a permanent mark on your body. Tattoos is like a permanent, obviously, inking of your body. It could be sentimental value, but it's also could be very like aesthetic value, right? I mean, let's just be real. I think a lot of times some tattoos are just for looking cool. Fitted hats, I think, are timeless. I think there have been many variations of like the baseball sports hat over the years, and I think people love those kind of hats. Trucker hats. Now, trucker hats I think are a bit more trendy for the most part. I think that they've been around for a while, but like they never really been considered a cool fashion item. They actually used to be called gimme hats. They used to be super cheap, but I think that they're more of a trendy new age kind of look. I have a ton of trucker hats. I love them, so I'm calling myself trendy, but like in the grand scheme of things, I think that they truly are more trendy than they are timeless. I can't not talk about headphones as an aesthetic. I think these are some of the most trendy looking accessories that have dawned the modern age, for a lack of better words, for the sake of drama. I think headphones are interesting in the fact that I feel like right now they're trendy, but as time goes on, they could be proven to be timeless. From the Walkman to wired earbuds to now wireless headphones. These things have been a part of aesthetics and have been a part of curated look for years and years and years. And I think right now we're just in a modern rendition of it. In 10 years, it could be the Apple AirPod Ultra Maxes, and that could just be the headphone of all headphones that sets it off for people. But right now it's the Apple AirPod Maxes and the Sony WH-1000, whatever they're called, and Bose and things like that. And those things are very trendy right now, but I think it's just always going to persist, headphones as this kind of aesthetic. When it comes to building a timeless wardrobe, I think it's a combination of both timeless items and trendy items that represent you as an individual. Trendy items aren't intrinsically bad. They do make us feel like we need to have something right now, and that is never a good feeling as a consumer. If I had to start over with my wardrobe, I would start with basics, things like this top from Kotn, other items that are just essentials, and then build my wardrobe off of the things that I'm most interested in, piece by piece, slowly over time. I think for the most part, we all understand what is trendy and what is timeless, but we all love engaging in this conversation because it's a fun debate that we have. What do you think I missed in this video? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2022. So that means I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity to you, wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Abianto. Peace. Yo, what is good? Post vid. Here's a fist bump for the one time. Bop. Here's another one for the one time. Bop. I appreciate you guys so much for staying to the end of the video. All right, post vid. Let's make it quick and easy. All right. That's what she said. Sorry, I had to say that. Okay. I've been on a manga anime kick. I asked you guys, do you guys watch anime dubbed or subbed? Now for me, don't gas, but I watch every anime that I watch dubbed. And my reasoning is that I've never watched an anime dubbed and said to myself, man, this is just not watchable. That's just never been the case, whether it be like Hunter x Hunter or Naruto or Dragon Ball or Akira or Cowboy Bebop or Samurai Champloo, or like every anime I've watched in English dubbed, I said to myself, damn, this is a good anime. So I don't know. I feel like we should have more of a conversation about this PVV. Let me know your opinion down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Dubbed? Are you team dubbed or team subbed? Am I inviting you over to the anime watch party? Or are you going to complain that it's dubbed the entire time? Let me know.